Hey everyone, it's Krista with K Talks with another video for my Coffee with Coaches series. And today I'm really pleased to have with me Jennifer Spor, who is a life coach who you guys have to meet. Thank you for coming on my show, Jennifer.
Thank you, Krista, so much for having me.
So Jennifer, tell us, what is the name of your business? Do you have an official name for your coaching practice?
I don't actually. The official name is my name, Jennifer Spor.
I love it. You're branded in your own brand.
I'm my own brand. Yep,
Yes.
all in one.
Very bold of you. So Jennifer, the reason I've been doing this video series is because there seems to be a lot of misconception about coaches. And also, sadly, there's people who are kind of taking advantage of this whole coaching thing to launch themselves as life coaches when they really aren't that qualified or knowledgeable. So I wanted to use my audience here, my bandwidth on social media, to really identify the coaches who I think are legit, and you're one of them.
Thanks.
Definitely it's important to know who you're talking to and make sure that we're dealing with a vetted coach who has
I agree.
results, right?
Yeah, not just a vetted coach, but in my opinion, also someone who you feel can relate specifically to the goals that you want to achieve and also your own life experience. It's important.
Well, a few years ago, I didn't even know what a life coach was. And that's actually, when I say a few years ago, I'm talking like maybe 3 years ago. I would not have known what a life coach did. And I would definitely not ever think that a normal person would hire one. So one of the things I'm doing with this video series is trying to bring the coaching industry back to the mainstream and explain how anybody can benefit from life coaching and how do you know when you need a life coach. But before we get into that, my first question that I like to ask all my guests is, how do you define coaching? Like if someone comes up to you and says, well, what do you do for a person? What would be your answer?
Well, in terms of what a coach actually does, I believe and I practice that coaching is really helping someone to identify how to get from where they are now to where they want to be. A lot of people have goals that they want to achieve, but they don't know how to get there. And for me, that's really what coaching is. A lot of people ask me, well, what's the difference between therapy and coaching, right? Because in coaching and in the work that I do with clients, there is an element of looking back at the past to determine the root cause of what is holding us back from achieving what we want today. So, and that does happen in therapy, but the forward looking piece, the how to achieve your goals piece, is really, I think, one of the biggest differentiators in coaching.
That's really well said, because I, as a fellow coach, I think a lot of times I turn away people for when they really need to focus on past. They can't move towards the future. They can't even focus on the present because they're literally living with this past burden on their shoulders. And I'm like, we can maybe work together, but first I definitely need to make sure you've got a really good therapist dealing with all those past issues, because they're going to hold you back. But on this, at the same time, there is the same level of trust as with therapists, right? I mean, you can't hold back things from a life coach. Just like if you went into therapy, you have to be your authentic self, and you can't tell half truths to your coach or lie to your coach or hide things from your coach. It just won't. It will be very, very bad for you. It won't help you in any way. So there has to be that level of trust. Would you agree?
Oh, I completely agree. That's another really important piece in terms of selecting a coach. If you're looking for one, is making sure that you have that connection, that you have that chemistry, that you feel like you can be open from the get-go. And it's so important because a lot of people feel that, well, for example, I'm going to hire a coach because I want to move forward in my business, right? But our business and our life outside of our business and who we are, it's all connected. So even if you're hiring somebody to help you with your business, you need to feel like you can reveal your most intimate details of your life, because it could be something, in fact, in that area of your life that is impacting your business. Because, mindset is 90% of the journey. All the rest is logistics.
So what led you down this path to coaching? I'm really curious to know a little bit more about you and your background. When we first started chatting, you mentioned that you had a corporate career in the East Coast, and then something happened and you changed completely.
Yeah. So before I'm thinking to myself, how do I articulate the Cliff Notes version of the story? Okay. So before I started coaching, I've been coaching the last couple of years. Before I started my coaching practice, I worked in the retail industry for over 23 years. I loved my career for a long time. I worked my way all the way up the ladder. I started when I was 19 as an associate and ended up with a corporate career as a director in store operations, the salary and all the stuff, right, that you would picture a corporate career to be. And because I thought that that's what I needed to have a fulfilled life, right? I needed to earn a certain amount of money and to gain all of the things. It took me checking all those boxes off the list to eventually have the fog lift from my mind. There were no more promotions left, pretty much nothing else for me to chase after, for me to realize that I was still unfulfilled and unchallenged. That was the beginning of the end, but I actually ignored that call to change for a while based upon my own fear and lack of self-worth around, can I do anything else? I'm almost 40 years old. Can I do anything else? I've been doing the same thing for so long. I didn't go to college. Could I do anything? And then my mom was the catalyst for me actually taking the action to make the change, because she was diagnosed with terminal cancer a couple of years later. So I'd already been feeling the call that I needed to do more. I needed to make a difference, right? Then she got sick, and it was that process of flying back and forth across the country to be with her and to spend that time with her. During that time, there was a defining moment where I found myself at her bedside, okay? And I was actually still having to deal with work drama, conference calls, or whatever else. And there was a moment that I thought to myself, you know what? I'm finished. Like, I am not going to allow myself to be trapped in this life anymore. Why am I worried about a toxic job that I don't even love anymore? And I'm trying to manage that against spending the last little bit of time I have left with my mom and my family. So that was when I finally decided to take action. Shortly after that, I voluntarily stepped down from my position. I rented out my house back east, packed my car, drove out to Idaho, which is where I grew up, to be closer to my family. And even at that time, I didn't know I was going to start my own business. I tried interviewing with other companies, and I did a post about this once, talking about walls versus doors, because at first I thought, oh, the answer is I just need to go work for another company.
Yeah.
So I interviewed with a couple of other large retailers, and even got to the point with one where I had like 6 interviews. They flew me out to essentially have a meet and greet before the offer, and then I didn't get the position. It was at that point that I was like, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something. And so that was when I had the idea that I needed to start my own business. And coaching has always come so naturally to me, because even as a little girl, I wanted to be a teacher. But then life happened, and I ended up working in retail. But what kept me in retail for so long was because of my love for helping people. And what I realized is that in retrospect, I was dating my purpose. I wasn't fully living my purpose. And I specifically decided to help the people that I help today because of the journey that I went through a few years ago. So I help other women who are leaders, who are in a similar space where they're feeling called to do more, but they don't know how to get from here to there. I help them essentially answer their higher calling. And so, yeah, like I said, it was my own journey that inspired me to be able to help others with that. Similar to what you said earlier, that 3 or 5 years ago, you would have been like, well, what's a coach? You know, that was how I felt when I was going through that phase of my journey at the time. I had no idea that there were people out there like us, you know, that could help me. Like I went and I had readings done. I went and, you know, talked to therapists, but none of that was giving me what I really needed. So
that's why I'm doing these videos and my podcast, because I truly believe that coaching can help everyone. I don't believe that every coach is a perfect match for everyone. So I definitely want to bring visibility and highlight some of the stellar coaches like yourself. But ultimately, I want people to do the free discovery calls, to listen to podcasts like this, to research a little bit more of the coaches individually, to check their style and be like, okay, I've read all your posts, I've watched several of your videos, I've listened to a podcast. Do you resonate with me or not? Because it's kind of like dating. I think you should kind of vet different coaches, and you shouldn't be like tied down to marry somebody right away. There's definitely a chemistry aspect of coaching that you have to have that trust with the person you pick, and it goes both ways. So I think as a coach, if I find somebody is not, we're having misunderstandings and it just doesn't feel right, I would refer them somewhere else. I would be like, I don't think we're the right fit, because ultimately you can't get anything done unless you get past that and you have trust established and there's
yeah, I offer free consultations as well, for that reason, because I agree with you. Not everybody is a fit to work together. I believe that each one of us has people that we're meant to serve, that our own personal life experience, which I've kind of just illustrated from sharing my own story, right? We all are meant to share those experiences in service to others to support them on their journey. So yes, when it comes especially to working with a coach, you most definitely want to take advantage of those discovery calls, those consultations, make sure that you feel the chemistry, and pay attention to the messaging that you see, or the videos that you see too. And a good kind of rule of thumb is that if you're feeling like, wow, this person gets me, or this person's inside my head, then that's a good indicator that you should reach out to that person, you know, and have a consultation with them, get to know them better. But yeah, it's so important just to make sure that you're the right match.
So one of the things I hear often is, I can't afford a coach. So people have this conception that coaching is a splurge, and they think, I can solve my own problems. I'll just look for a better job. I'll look for a better partner. I'll read some self-help books and I'll make my way. So what would you say to those kind of people who aren't quite ready for coaching? How do you address that?
Well, you might be ready for coaching. You just might not want to spend the money to do it. The first thing is really to understand that coaching is not a splurge. Coaching isn't even an expense. Coaching is an investment in yourself. And no one can really convince you to hire a coach. You have to want the change. You have to want to invest in yourself. You have to want to say yes to yourself. And it's all a matter of priorities. And that's what it comes down to. Is a trip more important to you, or hiring a coach to change your life. I mean, far past the time, and when I say you, I'm talking to whoever's watching us today, far past the time that you would finish the work with your coach, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. The ROI that you're receiving from investing in a coach, it's changing your life. Whatever solution you are seeking, you're going to receive, and it's changing the trajectory of everything in your life. And I mean, that's really all I can say about it. It's a wise investment, but it just comes down to what are your priorities, from a monetary standpoint. And the other thing I would say on that is that money is energy. Money is a renewable resource. Time you cannot get back. So if you're not willing to invest in your growth, how long do you want to continue to stay stuck in your life? That would be the other question I would ask.
That is so true, because like I said at the beginning of the call, like 3 years ago, maybe I didn't know what a life coach was, and I wouldn't have understood why a normal person would need one. And now I'm such a big proponent of life coaching. It has literally changed my life. And I do think that another sign of coaching is you should walk the talk. So I have a coach, and so if I didn't believe in coaching, I wouldn't have a coach myself, and I really feel like there's just the right coach for you at the right time. And, you'll know when you've outgrown that coach. But a good kind of measurement might be like, where are they at right now? Is that where you want to go? And if you're already past them and you want to go further, then maybe it's time to grow into a new level of coaching. So you don't really ever need to stop working with a coach. You just have to keep growing and figure out, okay, I've gotten everything I can from this coach. Let me move to another coach now because I'm at a new stage, right?
Absolutely. It's next level. We're eternal students.
People all want quick solutions. So they're thinking in terms of practical results, like the money, the relationships, the weight loss. They want like the before and after visual, and it's always has to be quick and easy. It's like, find me a new job, find me give me a diet pill, give me a diet pill.
Yeah.
But then the mindset.
In case anyone watching today is wondering, there's no silver bullet. There's no shortcut. You gotta do the inner work. Yeah. And, patterns are a result of a belief. Yeah. It's all mindset.
It's mindset, but people don't put the same value on it because it's not tangible. So mindset is like this invisible magic that happens behind the scenes that's undervalued for a lot of people. And they roll their eyes. They're like, I don't need mindset help. I need money. I need weight loss. I need a partner. I need a new house. So they're thinking about tangibles when actually they don't recognize that pattern of failure that's holding them back. And I'm like, well, if we fix your mindset, guess what? You can have all of that. So isn't that even more valuable than those one-off tangibles? It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. We create our reality from within. One of my areas or zones of genius or whatever you want to call it is I'm also a certified law of attraction coach. So a lot of the work that I do with clients is around mindset. Whether you look at it from a spiritual standpoint or from a scientific standpoint, everything is energy. So our reality is created from within. So if you want money, if you want a partner, if you want the perfect job, whatever it is that you want, that starts as a thought, as an idea, as a feeling, and it manifests outward.
It's interesting you say that because in the book that I wrote, The Sassy Method, I have an entire chapter dedicated to energy. And just like my mindset, people don't seem to understand what energy, how important that is. Yeah. So we neglect the things that matter and we focus just on the quick fixes or the external results. But external results are just like output of all the stuff that we've done inside. But people don't seem to put the same emphasis on the value. Maybe because it's just harder work. You know, it's harder work. We want to just see everyone else through that, you know, um, pink glasses, where you just look and you're like, oh, look at these people all have these amazing lives, and somehow that just manifested. We don't know how.
And that's the thing, is so many of us are a product of our environment. In society, so many of us are conditioned to believe that we need to look for external solutions, or that material things will solve whatever it is we want. That post that I did today that we were talking about, right, around checking off all the boxes, around thinking that that's going to make you happy, the money, the job, the house, all of the stuff. But then you realize after all of that that you're still unhappy. That's because happiness is an inside job. You have to create that, you know, from within yourself. And I know that I've experienced that on my own journey, you know, in life. And it comes up with every single one of the clients I work with too, is shifting that mindset around looking externally for validation.
It's so interesting that you talk about that, because it seems like a lot of people, it's attached to maybe shame and embarrassment, and it's like a sign of weakness to admit that what you're saying that you think isn't what you really think. Like, there's this external way of thinking that's considered normal and approved by society, but what we say to ourselves and do to ourselves is so horrific in a way, you know, and we wouldn't dare admit it to anyone else. Like people who overeat or overbuy, or you know, get addicted to things, or yell at their kids, or, you know, there's all these little secrets that we have and that we're not proud of at all, but we put up a good front to the outside world on a daily basis, and we won't even tell the people who are supposed to be helping us. You know, that's why it wouldn't work for life coaching. We have to admit it. We have to be totally transparent about what we actually are doing, because these are kind of like signs, cries for help, right?
Yeah, it's our ability to be transparent, but then it's also taking that a step further to look at, okay, I'm feeling shame about what I don't want to share. Well, where does that shame come from? You know, and what I find, again, based off my own life experience, but also those of the people I work with, is that everything that we learn in terms of our values, and whether we feel shame or fear or whatever other emotion about something, happens when we're young children. And our brains register those events because our brains are very reptilian. So the first time that we feel shame, that we feel like we can't share something with somebody, we then establish that as a behavioral pattern, and it actually carries with us on into adulthood, and it manifests itself in so many different ways. And just one of the many things, benefits about working with a coach, is that they can help you unlearn those patterns. And that's what's happening. You're essentially unlearning a lot of these self-sabotaging patterns, you know, that you've picked up. It's amazing. I mean, how we can carry those events with us into adulthood, and how much it sabotages us.
There's a lot of things packed into what you just said.
I know.
I want to say, like, as two fellow coaches, we could just pick that one topic and talk it's the deep. Rest of the night, because it's like all the labels that we acquired, it was like tokens given to us by others that validated our worth. So if we were yelled at as a child and scolded, we got the image that somehow we're bad, and there's the shame attached with being bad. And if we were validated for following directions or doing certain behaviors, then we got the impression that we were good, only with the condition that we continued that behavior. And that's where people-pleasing habits are instilled at a very young age. And sadly, it carries over beyond our home, beyond minding and being good at home. It carries over into society, like at church or in school settings. And it's like you're rewarded or you're punished every time you do something. So we get it in our head very early on that we need to follow the rules of society in order to have
Yes.
self-worth. And that's the saddest thing, because to a very limited extent, it's good to follow rules in society. And some of those rules are there for a reason and they're good. But to feel that it goes down to the core of if we're good or bad is a very big problem. But as
We
a
need
young
to change.
child, we can't do it, right? We can't
Rules,
change.
right. Rules
Mhm.
can be a good thing, but
Mhm.
the rules need to change.
Well, as a parent, I mean, I would reverse this conversation and be like, now as a mom, I'm very conscious about that. And one of the biggest mistakes I see parents making, and I probably did this with my first child without really knowing what I was doing, is to make sure that they understand that they're loved no matter what, regardless of who they are. And
Yes.
so it's not conditional. I think a lot of parents don't realize how important that is, to make it clear that I love you for who you are, not tied into your behavior. So I can be upset about your behavior, but that doesn't change that I love you.
Absolutely.
Because that
Absolutely.
carries on. That carries way, way on into
It
adulthood.
does. It all comes from our childhood. I mean, it really does. That's where those patterns are established, because we're the most impressionable. We're experiencing a lot of firsts. So, yeah, it's so important. I mean, I really can't even stress enough, the importance of that. If you asked me what percentage of the people that I've helped have patterns that are sabotaging, that come from their childhood, from something that they learned from their parents, literally like 95%.
That's
How
insane. I feel like scared to be a parent now when I hear that number, because I'm like, wow, I can't, you know, now that I've been coaching others, I'm very self-aware of those negative patterns. And I think one of the things that in the probably the 70s, so I would say like the baby boomers did to the Gen X generation, was to talk about the good job, the praise. So we became, in the 70s, people were told you should praise your children. And that praise led to, okay, if I do more of this, I'll get more love, right? And that really led people down a rabbit hole, because then they become depressed if they don't get that praise. And they also feel like in their careers, they have to people please to get ahead, versus following what they truly want to do or being who they truly are. They just have to keep doing that little
Yes.
show,
And
you
it's a
know?
vicious cycle, because, not everyone has good intentions, but most people do. Okay. So chances are someone's parents are doing the best that they could, even though it didn't look that way or didn't come out that way, or, they the parents have their own set of stuff. It's just a never ending cycle. But what happens, and what can happen, right, is that regardless of our past experience, we have the power to choose differently.
Well, one of the things I do with my clients, I don't know about you, but I make them write an apology letter to themselves and be like, I forgive you. I accept who you are. I love you. And I honestly forgive you for anything you've ever done that was
Yeah.
not
Yes.
authentic. For all this, let's put it behind us. Let's just
Yep.
accept that, we are human. And you can do that with your caregivers too, with your parents,
Hmm.
anyone in your life. You can write a letter and be like, you know, I can't forget, and I shouldn't forget what has happened, because it made me into who I am. But I'm choosing right now, as of today, to forgive. And forgive, because no human is perfect. And
Absolutely.
By forgiving, I'm freeing myself. It's not for you. It's for
Absolutely.
me. It's for me that I'm forgiving you. I'm forgiving you because I want to free myself
Yes.
from the power of that horrific experience, or that shame, or that guilt that I'm carrying with me. So I think that can help too. But it's interesting you talk about the past, because mindset is so much about um, self-worth. And so what you're getting down to is like your upbringing, if you were good or bad, goes back into what are you really worth as a human being?
All roads lead back to how we feel about ourselves and how we treat ourselves.
But it really goes way beyond parenting, right? I mean,
Hmm.
where do we spend the most of our day as children? We spent the most of our day with peers. So bullying and public shaming in school. Maybe you weren't that good in academics, or you weren't that good in sports, or you had some physicality thing holding you back, like you had a disability, or you were overweight, or you had funny clothes, or you had a funny hairstyle. So people get teased and bullied or excluded all the time. And so school can be a real traumatizing experience for many people. There's only that elite of, I don't know, 15% of the whole school who's
Right, though,
popular.
because those other kids, right, also come from environments where they are being made to feel some level of insecurity. And when people are insecure with themselves, whether they're children or adults, they project that out onto others.
That is so true. I mean, if you're like me, you'll see on social media now a lot of talk about trolls. And I always say trolls are people who are hurting. If you're going to attack people on that level, it's mostly not about you, it's about them. So
Yeah,
there's something really insecure deep down, that they're seeking validation, and they're seeking to use their power to harm other people, but it's really because they're hurting. So hurt people is a very true statement.
absolutely.
I know, we're just gonna have to make this a regular thing.
I know, have a regular coffee talk or something.
There you go. I think once my series Coffee with Coaches is over, we'll just have to continue that as a moderator.
We can, yes.
Jennifer, so I was really thinking a little bit about how coaching is intangible. So in life, we're always very results driven, which is normal. So we're all looking for tangible results. We want to get that next job. We want to get that promotion. We want to lose those 20 pounds. And coaching is a service that is intangible, but that can lead to tangible results. But it's a little bit hard for somebody to realize when do they need it, because it's not something you just go out and buy, like, oh, I'll just buy that weight loss program, or I'll just buy these diet pills, right? So to change your mindset would lead to the same results. It can lead to the weight loss or to that job promotion. But how does a person know that it's time for them to take that plunge, and how do they trust that they really will get tangible results?
Yeah. So it's a fantastic question. And the answer is really when someone reaches a place where they've hit a wall, right? Where they feel stuck. Because you can be into your growth and achieving your goals and take the actions and do all the things. But sometimes it may or may not work. And sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. We all have blind spots, essentially. And that's where having a coach can be hugely beneficial in helping us, see those blind spots. But it is basically when someone reaches a place where they're feeling stuck, they're frustrated, they've tried all of the things and they don't know what else to try anymore to move forward. That's where I feel the turning point is.
So to know that you really need coaching, I mean, some people are doing it maybe preventatively, that
Yes.
they recognize and acknowledge and appreciate the power of coaching. But for the rest of us, it's like coaching is maybe an afterthought until suddenly we're just stuck. We're at a wall, at a turning point, right?
Absolutely. And I've had my own coaches for years at this point, but when the first coach that I hired, I was in that place. I was stuck, essentially. It wasn't a preventive type of measure, it was more of a reactive one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but since then, I always have one or more coaches on hand, because it is that I am in that place now from a more proactive standpoint where I'm looking to get to the next level, and I want to prevent the fires before they even start, essentially, right? Because who wants to be in a place where they're feeling stuck, right?
Well, speaking of stuck, that implies that we're on a journey. We're like on a road,
Mm-hmm.
and we are, because we can't stop time. So we can't go backwards, and we can only move forward. So we're
Mm-hmm.
in this moment, but we're never standing still, really. We're always moving forward. And it comes to a point where we feel that we can't move forward. Like the path we're on is a dead end, or it's just the wrong path, and it keeps going, right?
Yeah, what you said there is so important, because you know what? We are moving forward, and you know what it's a matter of? How do you want to move forward? Do you want to continue to move forward unfulfilled, and feeling like you can't make the progress that you want to make or achieve your goals? Or do you want to move forward feeling more fulfillment, feeling more joy, getting to your destination, achieving those goals? So you're right. We are moving forward in time. The question is, how do you want to move forward?
Or even, where are you going? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes, people are just moving forward for the sake of moving, because they can't stand still, right? Life doesn't work that way. We've all got bills to pay, and family and friends, and people who are asking things of us around us. So there's plenty of things to keep us moving, whether or not we want to be moving in that direction. And then the distractions kick in. Then there's numbing mechanisms to stop thinking about your problems. People develop addictions or just unhealthy habits, like overconsumption of social media or TV, just so that they don't have to think, that they can shut off all thought, because they're terrified inside, right? They're terrified to be naked and exposed in where they're at. So, do you think that people try to avoid realism as well sometimes? I mean,
Oh, no, I absolutely do. And it actually just perpetuates the problem, because what happens when we develop those habits or those addictions, or we decide that we want to check out, we're not allowing ourselves to sit with those feelings that we're having, and therefore they aren't being processed. And so the same pattern continues over and over again, until we eventually allow ourselves to sit with where we're at, to take a fierce self-inventory and be willing to start taking different actions.
but that's so terrifying. I mean,
Right, it is, but that's what it goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? It's like you're moving forward, but how do you want to move forward? There is no shortcut to personal growth.
there's no shortcut, but there's plenty of ways to distract yourself and lie to yourself.
Right, there is. And if you want to distract yourself and lie to yourself, then great, more power to you. I personally don't want to do that, but it's in order to, the thing is we all deserve to experience joy and fulfillment in our lives, but in order to really, for that to be a state of being for us, we have to be willing to allow ourselves to feel the not so great stuff, so that we can heal, so that we can move on. Otherwise, the pattern will just keep coming back again.
It's interesting that you say that, because, you know, there has to be a point where the person actually is willing to change, and not
Oh yeah.
just acknowledging, you know, in a not so honest, not so authentic way. So I think knowing what's happening in your life and being aware that you're in a situation that you don't want to be in is one thing, but finding it within yourself the courage to swallow the frog and do that uncomfortable stuff, to do the work that it takes to get from where you are to where you need to be, is probably one of the toughest things that anyone can go through, to be honest.
It is. And there are a lot of people in the world that live their entire lives having a mediocre existence. They never take that step, right? To do what needs to be done to experience that level of joy and fulfillment that they deserve to have. And what I find is, and this was the case for myself as well, most of the people who have that willingness to do whatever it takes to move forward, to feel more joy in their lives, are the ones who are feeling that call to do more. You know, they're feeling that calling from their soul, you know, that there's more to their life than what they've been living. And when you feel that call, it doesn't go away. It just keeps getting stronger until you get to a point where you can't ignore it anymore. And if we continue to ignore, if we feel that and we continue to ignore it, the universe will eventually put something in our path that will cause us to redirect. And for a lot of people, it takes the loss of a loved one or some type of job loss or some type of other major tragic event to trigger them, to shake them awake, basically.
Or their own health. I mean, we all know
Right.
that
Yeah,
stress is a killer,
absolutely.
and it really does kill you emotionally, and eventually it will kill you physically. And before you die, there's a long, slow, painful decline. So that could be a wake up call. Is suddenly, your body
Yeah.
gives out on you, and you have some major health issue that's been building up because of you've been living a life that was not healthy for you. And
Yeah.
emotions emotions can lead that to health problems as really. So it's real, that mind
It
body
is real.
connection,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
um so what you described right now, like the loss of a loved one or loss of a job, it's like a wake up call, right? And for some people, they just try to smooth it over as quickly as possible. So some people don't process their feelings, and they
Mm-hmm.
they just want to get the next job, or um, repress the feelings about the loss of the loved one, or ignore all the signs that their body is telling them, so that they can just keep going, keep back to the grind. And for others, it just stops you in your tracks, and there's like no moving on. Your body is physically like stopped in the past.
It is. And that's why it's so important for us to tune into our intuition, to not ignore the nudges that we feel to make a change. Because you know what, for whoever's watching, listening right now, if something doesn't feel right, it's not right. And you should listen to that. You're not imagining things. You deserve to be happy. So if something's not right and you can't figure out what it is, then reach out for support. Don't wait until something else big happens to cause you to change courses. Recognize the signs now.
What gave me chills was listening to Lady Gaga's speech. I think it was the Golden Globe Awards, or I can't remember what award it was, but um,
Whichever one she got, yeah, all of them.
another
Yeah.
award, but a major award as an artist. And she gave this speech when she accepted the award, and this was earlier this year, where she says that she had a boyfriend who kept telling her that there's no way she'll ever make it. Like, she can dream on, but who does she think she is, right? Like,
I remember that speech. Yeah.
and that as a coach really really resonated with me, because we it's interesting that one negative thing needs 10 positive things to annulate it, right? So we need to hear 10 times something good to replace one bad thing
Right,
we heard.
because we're trained to look outside of ourselves for validation, when there are several different versions of the truth out there. Everyone has their own truth based upon what their beliefs are. And that's why, even though sometimes we need support on our journey, at the end of the day, we have to go with what our gut is telling us, no matter what anyone else says.
It's hard if it's somebody you love. A lot of people who I work with are dealing with parents who don't believe in their entrepreneurial
Labels,
endeavors,
beliefs.
and say, I love you, so I want you to become a doctor because it's a stable job, or I want you to become an accountant, and I don't want you to quit your stable accountant job to go be an artist or be something else. So it hurts. It hurts when your loved ones exactly aren't the ones who understand what you're trying to do when you follow your heart. And I think you have to take that risk anyway, though, right? Because it won't go away.
You absolutely do, because look, our loved ones, they're well-meaning, but unless they're traveling a similar path, no matter who they are, parents, brothers, sisters, even spouses, um, we can't expect that they would be capable of giving us sound advice.
That's so true. So you have to look at who is the advice coming from. I've written about this a lot online where I said, you know, if the person doesn't have experience as a subject matter expert, but yet they're going around giving advice about that subject, I would run. I would be like, look at the experts out there and listen to what they have to say. So if you want to go into any field, seek out the experts in that industry, because you need role models. And the role models sadly aren't going to be your spouse or your parents, right?
No, because they don't have the same dreams. Now, they can choose to support you. They can still love you and not have a complete understanding of what you do, but you can't expect them to give you sound advice on making career decisions and when it comes to following your dreams, right? It's like, it's funny you bring up the reference to being an artist, because I have a client who, as a child, wanted to be an artist, had natural artistic talent, but because a parent told her, you'll never make money doing that, you'll never be able to take care of yourself doing that work, she listened to that advice, she put it down, and now at this stage, this later stage in her life, she's just now having a shift in consciousness and coming back to that, looking at getting back into that again. But it's just a great example to show how powerful our loved one's influence can be on our life path, and also how much so most of us are conditioned to believe that we need to look outside of ourselves for validation. Many times, the careers that we're most aligned with are the ones that, even as young children, it's something that comes so naturally to us, but with a lot of kids, they recognize those talents and then life happens because they think they have to be a certain thing to achieve society's definition of what success is. My intent wasn't to go off on a tangent there, but just
No,
to
but
like, it's just a perfect example, right? And it just is so damaging to me. So damaging to crush someone's dreams because of your own beliefs about what you think is or isn't possible, when the truth is that anything is possible. So earlier you talked about, right, how we talked about the tangible versus the intangible. And it's funny because so many people chase after the tangible thinking that that's going to bring them the intangible, but it's the reverse. Everything in our external environment once started as a thought, as an idea, as an emotion, and then it materialized. So our thought process is backwards.
I've developed this a coaching program called the Sassy Method. It's a 12 to 27 week modular program. And one of the most important components is actually the self-awareness component. And self-awareness for me is built up of, there's a lot of tactics and tools that I give people, but within self-awareness is visualization. And visualization is close your eyes, see your dream, and now see all the details. See what clothes you're wearing. See what people are around you. Look up at the sky. What does the sky look like? What does the room look like that you're in, or the environment that you're in? You know, like, I really want them to see it so clearly in their mind that whenever they ever doubt during the hard times and the rejections and the failures, that they can pull up that image and it's crystal clear, like it's a reality.
Yes. Yes, because that's what they're doing. They're creating that reality.
It's crazy what we're capable of if we only harness all of our energy, right? Instead of diversifying it and putting out some energy towards self-doubt, some energy towards listening to others who don't support us,
Yes.
criticizing us, letting stress get to us. Like we diffuse all that energy when we could just channel it and
yes.
be like, boom, 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 boom.
The law of attraction is always at play 24/7,
Yep.
whether we realize it or not. It's like your energy is going somewhere. Why wouldn't you want it to go toward what you want versus what you don't want?
Well, there it goes back to kind of the topic of this portion of our podcast is intangible versus tangible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we walk into a space, first of all, there's energy flowing that was there when we arrived. And I've always found it fascinating how to become hyper aware of energy flow and like, what energy am I putting out and what energy are you putting out? And I think that for someone walking into an interview, it's a great example. You walk into the room and you've got to radiate this self-confidence, but it has to be a quiet self-confidence. So you have to really concentrate all your energy on radiating out your competencies, your abilities, your self-assurance, that the interviewer immediately will feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately.
It's so true. Sometimes I've told people that before as well. It's like sometimes you're saying more when you're not saying anything.
But it takes a little bit of self-awareness exercise
It does.
and practice to realize.
It does.
But once I show clients that, they're like, oh my goodness, this is so true. Like, I walked into a room and I could feel the negativity or the burnt out person or the unhappy person right there. I could feel them. They didn't say anything, but I could feel it. And I said, yeah, that's really true, right? Or
it
the
is.
Energy of the earth. I love to try to watch as many sunrises and sunsets as possible. So I have like a whole photo album of sunsets because I've seen thousands of sunsets, and it never gets old. And sunrises a little bit less that I've gotten actual photos of, unfortunately, but every time I do, I feel immense gratitude because of the energy, the intangible energy, not only from other people, but from the universe. And you can really, I have a saying, I call it vampires. So there's energy vampires that suck your energy out of you. And then there's energy sources. And I'm like, what are your sources, right? Like, let's get away from the vampires and
what lifts you up. Yeah.
Yes. What's the energy source where you, after whatever that it was a person, place, or thing that you encountered, you just feel renewed and refreshed. Maybe it's going home to your parents' home. I mean, I hope that your parents' home gives you that energy. Unfortunately, not everyone, but sometimes just going back to your home or your grandma, some person that loves you unconditionally, and you just go there, and after an hour you leave and there's this new calmness, and you're just like, but I wish everyone was more in touch with the tangible versus the intangible, which is why I thought this conversation would help a lot of people, because we don't talk about it very much.
Yeah, right? It's true. Yeah, I did I don't know when this is coming out, but I did a short video the other day online on LinkedIn just about the tangible versus the intangible. And not surprisingly, there wasn't as much engagement on that. I notice, I don't know if you sense this sometimes, right? This is another post idea that I have, a message that I feel needs to be shared. But whenever we meet up with something that causes resistance within us, we have a tendency to shrink back and isolate and to not talk and to not vocalize. Like with that post, I felt it. I knew that I hit something. And I wasn't surprised that there weren't as many comments on it. Because yeah, it is a thing, as you say, that most people don't address.
You know, recently that's been changing. I was so pleased that Netflix decided to broadcast Brene Brown's talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
guilt and shame, because that just showed me that there's a shift in value towards
Mm-hmm.
the inner work that we need to do, the emotional intelligence component. And I see that both in my private life, like in social media and mainstream media, as well as in career development. And this is very pleasing to me, because I would like to see people address the things that aren't so superficial, that are deeper, that are more authentic. And you're absolutely right that we shy away from them. So, you know, if you compare two videos, one about like cute cats or cute babies, is going to get more likes than
Oh yeah, way
something
more.
about emotional intelligence.
Right. Or if somebody is I don't know, projecting some happy face message or whatever, don't get me wrong, like those messages are important, positivity is important, and I do those messages sometimes, but what we need to be doing is spending more time going deeper, having conversations that are deeper, conversations that are going to bring humanity sustainable transformation that is so needed.
Well, you and I are both warriors of the intangible.
For
So
sure.
when someone says, well, what do you do? And it's like, we move the invisible barriers that are holding you back from achieving tangible results in your life. Because it's how it is. And like you said, you know, sometimes you don't see it yourself. So it takes someone outside you, and definitely not your loved ones who don't have those skills to support you in that way. It takes someone like a coach to really show you the behaviors that are holding you back, and those invisible barriers that we talked about this with you offline about head slapping moments.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest solutions are right in front of us. In fact, I like to repeat to myself as my personal mantra: you already have everything you need right here. And I repeat that over and over to signify to myself that I don't need to go out and purchase another digital course. I don't need to go out and buy myself more stuff that I don't need in general, like shopping therapy. What I need to do is do the inner work and listen to my heart more, and meditate more, and be in touch with, am I on track? Like, is this really what I want? And most importantly, to listen to your North Star, right? To follow your North Star. Because I like to say to people that we can only see 3 feet in front of us. It's like San Francisco, where I'm based, is fog, especially in the summers. It's really bad. We try to escape it. And so in life, you can't really know what's going to happen a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. So instead of like trying to predict and try to channel, always be like, is the path I'm on in line with my North Star, which is your big vision, your big dream, versus getting too wrapped up in your little moves? Because if you always ask yourself, then you'll be able to say no to a lot of things that aren't in line with your priorities, right?
Absolutely. The future only exists in potential. Everything is energy. Our ability to shape our future in whatever way we want that is in the now. It's what you're saying. It's in being mindful. It's in being present right now, where you're choosing to put your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy now is what your future is going to be.
I love it. And I want to stop on that note because I think that's so powerful what you just said. In fact, I'm going to put that in the show notes. I'm going to quote you what you just said, because people just don't look. They want to look in the past or they want to look in the future when really it's the action that you're doing now that's going to make you lose the weight. It's not I'll start the diet tomorrow or I'll stop doing these bad behaviors tomorrow. It's like, no, how about you just stop right now and focus like right now on what you should be doing? Is this helping you move towards that North Star goal, that big dream, or is it not helping you?
What you said there is key. So this is a really easy guideline that anyone can follow, right? For navigating life. If it's not helping you, it's hurting you. There is no in between, okay? either it's taking me closer to what I want or it's taking me further away. There is no in between, and there are no exceptions to that. Our own growth, our relationships with others, our careers, everything you can apply that guideline to.
I love that. So I think these are very valuable tips, and I really want to thank you again for being on my podcast. And I hope that everyone listening can use some of these tools. Jennifer is very valuable advice she's given here, and I hope that everyone can really focus on the present, focus on the intangible, and more or equally to your tangible. And we're not used to it. It's not second nature, but this is really what will move the needle.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.